I ask Allah to make this easy for me and for you. We left off where Yusuf alayhi salatu wassalam wa alaykum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We left off where Yusuf alayhi salatu wassalam interpreted the dream of the king. How did he interpret the dream of the king? As you know, insha'Allah ta'ala, the king saw a dream, or maybe a nightmare for him. It disturbed him, this dream. And then he asked his council to interpret the dream for him, but they were unable. And in that session was the one who pours the drinks for the king, the one who entered the prison with Yusuf, the one that Yusuf interpreted his dream and the dream of his colleague. And then Yusuf told him, mention me to your master when you get out. Because Yusuf foretold for him that he's going to get out. In the process of explaining his dream. In the process of explaining his dream, he foretold that he would get out of the prison. And he told him, mention me to your master. Mention me to your Lord, meaning your master, the king. Tell him that I have been imprisoned unjustly, but Allah willed for this drink pourer to forget. So Yusuf dwelled in the prison for several years. Then the king saw the dream and asked his people to explain the dream for him. They could not explain the dream, but the pourer was there, and that reminded him of Yusuf after all those years. وَادَّكَرَ بَعْدَ أُمَّةٍ. That's what's mentioned in the ayah. I think I did not draw your attention to the word ummah here. We're going over the tafsir here, the tafsir of the Quran. We're not just merely recapping or going over the story of Yusuf. We're doing really two things here. The story of Yusuf and the tafsir of the Quran. So tafsir of the Quran means we want to point out things also that are in the ayat, words that are there, and some of the different aspects of the Arabic language and things like that that are not necessarily directly related to the story or imperative to understanding the story. That one, Allah says about him here, وَقَالَ الَّذِي نَجَا مِنْهُمَا وَادَّكَرَ بَعْدَ أُمَّةٍ. The one who was saved from amongst those two, there was the pourer and the baker. The baker was the one who was executed. The pourer was the one who was exonerated. He said, وَادَّكَرَ بَعْدَ أُمَّةٍ, and he remembered after an ummah, after a long time. That's one of the meanings of ummah. This word ummah has many meanings in Arabic language, not nation here or community. One of the meanings of ummah is a long time. One of the meanings of ummah is religion. That's what some of the kuffar said to some of the prophets. They said, Inna wajadna aba'ana ala ummah. We found our forefathers upon an ummah, a religion. Wa inna ala atharihim muqtadun. And we are following in their legacy. Yani, we're going to follow them simply because they were our parents, not because we have any evidence. And one of the meanings of ummah, as you know, is nation or community. Any nation. That's one thing. Another thing that I did not mention for you last time is something pertaining to Yusuf's interpretation of the king's dream. So let's back up a little bit. Let's recap what the king saw, and then we'll go from there. And so the author says, we're going to start at ayah 43. Starting with the word of Allah Ta'ala, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. وقال الملك إني أرى 7 بقرات سمان يأكلهن 7 عجاف. The king, Al-Rayyan ibn al-Walid, said, indeed, I dream of 7 fat cows being devoured by 7 emaciated cows. That means skinny. وَسَبْعَ سُنبُلَاتٍ خُضْرٍ وَأُخَرَ يَابِسَاتٍ. And I dream of 7 green ears of grain and 7 other ears that are dry and enveloping the green ears, wrapping around them, enveloping them, engulfing them. يا أيها الملأ أفتوني في رؤياي إن كنتم للرؤيا تعبرون. O council, answer me about my dream. If dreams you can interpret, then interpret mine. يا أيها الملأ أفتوني في رؤياي. O council, answer me about my dream. إن كنتم للرؤيا تعبرون. If dreams you can interpret, then interpret mine. قالوا أضغاث أحلام وما نحن بتأويل الأحلام بعالمين. They said, these are muddled dreams. We are not knowledgeable of the interpretation of such dreams. وقال الذي نجا منهما وادكر بعد أمة. And said that one who was saved from amongst those two, and he remembered after a long time, yani after many years, he forgot all about Yusuf. He said to him, or he said, أنا أنبئكم بتأويله فأرسلون. I will inform you of its interpretation. Send me to the prison. Yani, he's saying, I know a man there who can interpret the dreams. Send me there. I will talk to him. So they sent him. And notice the transition. So he says, أنا أنبئكم بتأويله. I will tell you the interpretation of the dream. فأرسلون. So send me. Then the very next ayah. يوسف أيها الصديق. Joseph, oh you who is so truthful. So that means there's something in between, right? Which is what? So they sent him to the prison, and then he saw Yusuf, and then he said to him, Yusuf, oh you who is so truthful. But you don't need all of that in there. You're going to understand. That's how the Quran is. Quran makes good sense, makes perfect sense. And Allah tells us all throughout the Quran that the Quran is for those who are intelligent, and for those who are mindful, and for those who have comprehension. It doesn't say here, he said, there's no citation here. It doesn't say, he said, Yusuf. It just jumps right into his statement immediately. That's one of many instances of implied citation. This is very important, especially for those of you who are, who suffer from the whispers and you always have a problem with blasphemy. You say, they didn't say he said. Is it blasphemy? If you can identify the implied citations, this will help you a lot. There's an implied citation here. Yusuf ayyuha siddiq. The implication is, he said, Yusuf, oh you who is so truthful. أفتنا في 7 بقرات. أفتنا في 7 بقرات سمان يأكلهن 7 عجاف. Answer us about 7 fat cows being devoured by 7 emaciated cows. وَسَبْعَ سُنبُلَاتٍ خُضْرٍ وَأُخَرَ يَابِسَاتٍ, and 7 green ears and others that are dry. And you know what ear means here? That's not a body part. That's the grain. It's one of the meanings of ear in English. لَعَلِّي أَرْجِعُ إِلَى النَّاسِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ, so that I can return to the people, so that they can know. Know what? Know what the dream means? No. So that they can know about you, Yusuf. Nani, I forgot all about you, but now here I am. I remembered now. Tell me what this dream means, and I can go back and tell the people about you. And Allah is wise. Allah is wise. Allah is the one who makes everything line up. And look what happened to Yusuf, and he is a great creation to Allah. Yusuf is not insignificant to Allah. But Allah, in His wisdom, made this person forget, and as a result, Yusuf stayed in the prison all that time. And then, when it was time for him to come out of there, Allah created for him what he needs so that he can get out of there. Allah is wise. Allah is wise. قَالَ تَزْرَعُونَ سَبْعَ سِنِينَ دَأَبًا. He said, you sow for 7 years with diligence. Farm for 7 years diligently. Those are the 7 fat cows. فَمَا حَصَدتُّمْ فَذَرُوهُ فِي سُنبُلِهِ. What you reap, leave it in its stalks. That means store it. Yani, Yusuf is telling them, you're going to make a mass stockpile. Store it in its stalks. And this is a collective group effort here. إِلَّا قَلِيلًا مِّمَّا تَأْكُلُونَ. Store it in its stalks so that it does not spoil, except a little from which you shall eat. ثُمَّ يَأْتِي مِن بَعْدِ ذَلِكَ سَبْعٌ شِدَادٌ. Then there shall come 7 harsh years after that. يَأْكُلْنَ مَا قَدَّمْتُمْ لَهُنَّ. Those 7 harsh years, those are the 7 emaciated cows, consuming what you have prepared for them. إِلَّا قَلِيلًا مِّمَّا تُحْصِنُونَ. Except a little that you shall store. Yani, now you're going to start using that stockpile. And it's going to dwindle and dwindle, but don't eat all of it. You got to keep some of it. You're going to need that for later, so you can start planting again later. ثُمَّ يَأْتِي مِن بَعْدِ ذَلِكَ عَامٌ فِيهِ يُغَاثُ النَّاسُ وَفِيهِ يَعْصِرُونَ. So, as far as the dream, that's it. He saw 7 fat cows being eaten by 7 skinny cows. And he saw 7 green ears. That's the first 7 years, like the 7 fat cows. Those 7 green ears were engulfed by 7 dry ears. That's the 7 harsh years. Okay, that's what was in the dream, not more. So here, Yusuf said, ثُمَّ يَأْتِي مِن بَعْدِ ذَلِكَ عَامٌ فِيهِ يُغَاثُ النَّاسُ. Then there shall come after that a year in which the people shall be rescued by the rain. Where is that in the dream? It's not in the dream. So where he got that from, alayhi salatu wassalam, he got that from the revelation. It's not part of the dream. So this statement here from Yusuf, that's another miracle of his, a telling of the future by revelation. وَفِيهِ يَعْصِرُونَ. In that year, they will again press fruits and the likes. Press fruits, press seeds, squeezing out the oils and the juices. So then, look again, the transition. وَقَالَ الْمَلِكُ ائْتُونِي بِهِ. The king said, bring him to me. What happened there? So you don't need someone to spell it all out for you and say to you. So the poorer, he listened to Yusuf, explained the dream, then he went back to the king, and then he told the king, and then the king said, bring him to me. All of that, yani, none of that is there, but you're going to understand it. But it's in the parentheses here. When the herald came, that's the herald here is the poorer. When the poorer came with the interpretation of the dream, and then he told the king what the interpretation was, the king said, Ituni bi, bring him to me. فلما جاءه الرسول قال ارجع إلى ربك فاسأله ما بال النسوة اللاتي قطعن أيديهن. Then when the herald came to Yusuf said, go back to your Lord, go back to your master and ask him to investigate. What is the case of the women who cut their hands? So also here, look how summarized it is. When the herald came to Yusuf, Yusuf told him, go back. It doesn't even say what the herald said to Yusuf, but you're going to understand. The herald came, yani the messenger of the king, the representative or the officer of the king. He came to Yusuf to get him out of the prison and bring him. And he said to Yusuf whatever he said. At this moment, Yusuf refused to leave. And he told them, no, first go back to the king and tell him to investigate those women. Inna Rabbi bikaydihinna alim. Surely my Lord of their scheme is knowledgeable. So then the herald returned. That's as far as we got last time, up to ayah 50. So the herald returned, and he informed the king. And then the king summoned the women. Yani, he investigated the issue. قال ما خطبكن إذ راوتن يوسف عن نفسه. The king said, what was the matter with you when you attempted to seduce Joseph despite himself? Did you find him inclining towards you? And did you see that he wants you? قُلْنَا حَاشَ لِلَّهِ. They said, God forbid. Yani, that's what they're saying. No, far from it, not at all. مَا عَلِمْنَا عَلَيْهِ مِن سُوءٍ. We know not of him any villainy. We don't know anything bad about him. قالت امرأة العزيز. There should be a kasra on this tat here. قالت امرأة العزيز الآن حصحص الحق. The wife of Al-Aziz said, now the truth has been exposed. أنا راودته عن نفسه وإنه لمن الصادقين. There should be a kasra on this noon here. I wanted him despite himself, and surely he is certainly amongst the truthful. Now, some said that in the next verse is Joseph's speech, and not what the wife of Al-Aziz said, not the speech of the wife of the Aziz. Although, there is nothing obvious to indicate the shift. Yani, if you don't look at these words right here in bold that are interjected in between ayah 51 and 52, The last speaker in Ayah 51 was the wife of Al-Aziz. And then someone in Ayah 52 is still speaking, or is speaking, as if it's her still speaking. But some said, no, this is Yusuf. Although there's nothing obvious to indicate the shift between her and Yusuf. Rather, they are relying on the context, relying on the meaning and the context as the evidence to say the speaker changed. In other words, it appears from the arrangement of the sentences to be the speech of Zalikha, but context, it's the speech of Yusuf. So Yusuf said, according to this, ذلك ليعلم أني لم أخنه بالغيب وأن الله لا يهدي كيد الخائنين. That is so that the Aziz knows that I did not betray him in his absence. I didn't have an affair with his wife. And so that Allah does not guide the scheme of the treacherous. And that is because Allah does not guide the scheme of the treacherous. So what we're saying here is, in terms of the meaning of this talk here, it's most likely what Yusuf said, but there's nothing to indicate that. So if we just recite it without this interjection in the middle, it doesn't appear that the speaker shifted. So I'll back up. قالت امرأة العزيز, the wife of Al-Aziz said, الآن حصحص الحق أنا راودته عن نفسه. Now the truth has become exposed. I am the one who attempted to seduce him despite himself. وَإِنَّهُ لَمِنَ الصَّادِقِينَ. And indeed, he is certainly amongst the truthful. ذَلِكَ لِيَعْلَمَ أَنِّي لَمْ أَخُنْهُ بِالْغَيْبِ. That is so that he knows that I did not betray him in his absence. وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَهْدِي كَيْدَ الْخَائِنِينَ. And because Allah does not guide the scheme of the treacherous. So if this is her speech, what is she saying? How does it make sense to be what she said? Some said what she would be saying if this is her speaking is that this is so that Yusuf knows that I came clean. I confessed. Although I did punish him unjustly, I am now here confessing so that he knows that lam akhunhu bil ghaib, I didn't betray him in his absence. Yani, right now I'm telling the truth. So, and you might say, doesn't seem so strong to me. So that's why they're saying this is Yusuf's speech here, but there's nothing clear other than the meaning to indicate the shift in the speaker. That's the end of the juzl. That's the end of the juzl, not the end of the surah. You know that the surahs, they transcend the juzls. So the Quran is made of 30 juzls, 30 parts. Are you now seeing juz 13 on your screen? Or are you still seeing juz 12? Let me see here. You're still seeing juz 12. 13th juz is continuing. وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي. And Joseph said humbly, and I do not exempt myself. And it's possible that this is the woman still speaking. I do not exempt myself. I confess. إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ إِلَّا مَا رَحِمَ رَبِّي. But what does it mean for Joseph to not exempt himself? Isn't Joseph an impeccable prophet? Yeah, he is. Don't the prophets believe in their own impeccability? They do. They certainly do. There's proof for that the prophets believe in their own impeccability. The prophets have the right belief like we do. So how he doesn't exempt himself? Yani, he means, according to saying that this is Yusuf's speech, he means to say Allah is the one who purifies me. Allah is the one who makes me who I am and protects me. I am not the one. It's not myself who makes me an impeccable prophet. إن النفس لأمارة بالسوء إلا ما رحم ربي. Surely the self, one might say the ego, but the self is an insistent commander of the evil, yani one's own self. The self is an insistent commander of the evil. إن النفس لأمارة بالسوء إلا ما رحم ربي, except those whom my Lord protected when he has mercy. What does this mean? The nafs, the self, is an insistent commander of the evil. So, firstly, there is two emphasizers here. Inna nafsa la ammaratun bisud. Inna is an emphasizer. Surely. And nafsa, the self, is la ammaratun. This lam is another emphasizer. So I'm putting indeed. Surely the self is indeed an insistent commander. Insistent commander. Yani, don't stop. It doesn't stop. The self does not stop telling you your own self. Yani, unless you break it or unless Allah blessed you. It won't stop telling you to do bad. إن النفس لأمارة بالسوء. Surely the self is indeed an insistent commander of the evil. Ammara. Ammara is emphatic form of Amir. Amir means commander, or Amirah. The Amir is the commander, one who gives Amr, command. Okay, so just like, you say Fa'il, doer. So you can amplify that and say Fa'al. Kadhib, liar. You can amplify that and say Kadhab. Kafir, blasphemer. You can amplify that and say Kaffar. Not kuffar, kaffar. Here, Amir, commander. You can amplify that and say Ammar. So one who commands a lot, and it's feminine. Nafs is feminine, so the Ammara needs to match it. So it's feminine. Ammaratun. إن النفس لأمارة بالسوء. Indeed, the self is, and for sure, the self is indeed an insistent commander of the evil. So look how emphatic that is. إِلَّا مَا رَحِمَ رَبِّي, except those whom my Lord protected when he has mercy. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi. What did some of the wise ones say? They said, your worst enemy is yourself between your two sides. Inna Rabbi Ghafurur Rahim. But what if this is the talk of the woman? Then she would be saying, I confess, I don't exempt myself, I don't excuse myself. Khalas, the cat's out of the bag. It was me. I'm the culprit. Surely the self is indeed an insistent commander of the evil. And what's that? If this the case, if this the woman, what is that? That's a woman taking accountability. May Allah enable all of us, the men and the women, to take accountability. Inna Rabbi Ghafurur Rahim. Surely My Lord is forgiving, merciful. Yani, that's a serious thing. And right now we're talking about something very serious. Even what I just said, you could have chuckled at that, but that's a serious thing if we want to be real. Let the sisters, the men too, but let the sisters be mindful. Maybe some of them, it's just an inclination, not even a second thought to excuse themselves, to say why they weren't wrong, why they didn't do something wrong, how it wasn't their fault. Don't be so quick here. وقال الملك ائتوني به أستخلصه لنفسي. And the king said, bring him to me. I shall use him for my advantage. Yani, I will use him for myself, meaning for my advantage. So all of this until now, Yusuf didn't come out. So the king again said, bring him to me. So that means he was still there. I will use him for myself. How's this? What is the king saying here? Yani, this king is very intelligent man here. And he understands from all this drama here that he is dealing with a man of yani, a special good person here. There's something about this one here. Look how he interpreted the dream. Look at all this surrounding him here. Bring him to me, the king said. I will use him for myself. Then the herald came to Joseph, saying, respond to the king. Yani, khalas, time to get out of there now. Don't stay here any longer. Now, obey the king. Come out. So Yusuf got up and he bade the prisoners farewell and he prayed for them and he took a ghusl and he put some good clothing on and then he went to the king. So as if he had property there. فلما كلمه قال إنك اليوم لدينا مكين أمين. Then when he spoke to Joseph and encountered a man unlike anything he anticipated, he said, surely today you are on my authority, distinguished and entrusted. Yani, Yusuf came to him. So he spoke to him. He met him and he spoke to him. They talked back and forth. And it was said the king knew 70 languages. 70 languages. Yusuf responded to him in all of them. That's impressive. Yani, I wonder how many people he can find to talk to him in all these languages. Yusuf responded to him in all of those languages, and then Yusuf spoke to him in Hebrew. So the king said, what tongue is this? So it's so impressive. This man knows 70 languages. You're going to come and speak to me if I know 70 languages, you're going to come and speak to me in a language that I don't understand? And talk to me in all the languages that I do understand? He told him, what tongue is this? He said, this is the tongue of my fathers. So, فَلَمَّا كَلَّمَهُ قَالَ. So when he spoke to him, he said, إِنَّكَ الْيَوْمَ لَدَيْنَا مَكِينٌ أَمِينٌ. Surely, today you are on my authority, distinguished and entrusted. Yani, the smart, very smart man. What is he? This is the king. He's not letting his ego get in the way. Yeah, with the meaning that, if you know the story, the king basically put Yusuf in charge. He put Yusuf in charge. He didn't say, I'm the king. Nobody's going to be in charge but me. He said, you're going to be in charge. That's very, very smart. So the king asked him, what do you think we should do? So Yusuf said, stockpile the food and farm diligently in these fertile years. Then store the food in its stalks. People from far and wide will come for supplies. The king said, to whom can I delegate this task? So Yusuf is his advisor now. He's going to do what Yusuf tells him to do. قال اجعلني على خزائن الأرض إني حفيظ عليم. Joseph said, put me over the vaults of the land. Surely I am a strict guardian and knowledgeable, Yani. I am a great scholar and I am reliable. I am a reliable, literate accountant. Literate, Yani, he can read and write. All the prophets were literate, but not Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. An accountant, Yani, he can take care of the money. And why did Yusuf suggest that he puts him here? He didn't tell them, put me in charge of the army or something else. He told him, put me in charge of the vaults. This is because of Yusuf's great knowledge. He knows a lot. And he knows what needs to be done. And he knows that this issue here, the issue of the money, taking care of the money, no one, Yani, absolutely no one can do it but him. No one will be able to do what needs to be done here but him. You learned about sales. Yani, we are in the nation of Muhammad. You've learned about sales and dealings and some of the different things. Just a small example of if a group of people send you to the store and each one gives you his money, you don't mix those monies. What if they all gave you 5? You need to keep track of those 5s. Whose 5 is this one? Whose 5 is this one? Whose 5 is this one? Then you go and fill all of their orders. And if they get change back, you need to separate this one's change from this one's change from this one's change. So that's small time. That's just to give you an idea of why Yusuf was the only one who can take care of this issue here. Because this is going to need knowledge here. So he said, اجعلني على خزائن الأرض. Put me over the vaults of the land. إني حفيظ عليم. Surely I am a strict guardian and a great scholar. And what did he do here? He praised himself. Was he bragging? No, this is not bragging here. This here where he praised himself, if you want to call it that, it is a praise of himself, but he is stating his qualifications for a benefit. Sometimes you will hold back mentioning your own merits. You should. Don't praise yourself a lot. Yeah, don't praise yourself. Don't praise yourself. But only if there's a benefit to it. Like here. Why Yusuf mentioned his merits here? Because there's a benefit for him to do that. This is out of wisdom here. This is not out of bragging. That's what you're going to do. If you were in a situation where people needed to learn Al-Fatiha, for example, and you know how to teach them Al-Fatiha, then you're going to say, I can teach you Al-Fatiha. Don't say, it's not humble for me to tell them that I can teach them Al-Fatiha. Let me stay silent and observe the humility while these people are ignorant. Now, this is foolishness, not wisdom. Rather, you're going to say, I am able. I can teach you. And also, there's another proof here. There's a proof that it's permissible for someone, it's valid for someone, Muslim, to work for an unjust ruler, because he's going to not yet, the king, according to this story at this point, he did not yet become Muslim. He did become Muslim though. But Yusuf is now accepting to work in the king's non-Muslim system. Why? because he is able to yani, be just or support justice. He's able to support justice in that position. Although he is in the midst of a non-Muslim or unjust system, but he's able to implement the justice in his position, then this is permissible. So that's how someone could be a judge for an unjust caliph, for an unjust caliph. I don't suggest you try to be a judge in a non-Muslim country. I don't think you're going to be able to avoid haram. But if there were an unjust caliph, and then he wanted to appoint you as a judge, and you have the knowledge, and you can implement the justice in that position, then it's permissible for you to take that position. Or, taxes are haram. You can't work as a taxman, but it is possible to be some kind of a tax accountant. I don't mean independent one. I'm talking about working in a kafir or unjust system under unjust rulers. If what you are doing is helping the Muslims, for example, preserving the rights, keeping records of where money is supposed to go, doing what is justice, not injustice, then you can. So be careful. Be careful. Don't be sloppy here and say, no, I can work in the non-Muslim system here. This unjust system here, let me do it. And then you're not doing anything just or not escaping all of the haram. Don't put yourself into that position. There was one brother, I don't know if he ever made it. He was running for a judge position. I told him, don't do it, bro. I don't think he listened to me. I don't know if he succeeded. He told me, I can help the Muslims. Yeah, but what about most of the people who are not Muslims and all of the scenarios that are haram that you're not going to be able to get around? What are you going to do? Allah says, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحْكُمْ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْفَاسِقُونَ. Whoever does not rule according to what Allah revealed, then they are the major sinners. وَكَذَلِكَ مَكَّنَّا لِيُوسُفَ فِي الْأَرْضِ يَتَبَوَّأُ مِنْهَا حَيْثُ يَشَاءُ. Like we endowed upon him by rescuing him from the prison, we empowered Joseph in the land. We endowed upon him by empowering him in the land, settling therein wherever he wants, after having restricted movement into prison. After he was confined to very narrow, limited space in the prison, Allah enabled him to settle anywhere he wanted. That's how Allah will change someone's situation. نصيب برحمتنا من نشاء ولا نضيع أجر المحسنين. We bestow our mercy upon whomever we will, and we do not squander the reward of the good doers. Yani, Allah will bless whomever He wills. Allah will give whatever He wills to whomever He wills. So don't be a hater. You say, when you see someone that Allah has endowed that one, and you say, him? What do you say? You say, قَدَّرَ اللَّهُ وَمَا شَاءَ فَعَلَ. It's what Allah willed. Whatever Allah willed to be shall be. وَلَأَجْرُ الْآخِرَةِ خَيْرٌ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَكَانُوا يَتَّقُونَ. And the reward of the afterlife is better than the reward of the earthly life for those who believed and they were God-fearing. So what happened then? The story's not over. Tune in next week, inshallah ta'ala. Any question? صدق الله العظيم.